The RLCS Season 21-22 season has officially come to an end for the regular season. All that's left is the Spring Major in London, as well as the World Championship in Dallas. But before we get into those types of things, we obviously need to sit and break down what went down this weekend. Regional 3 for Europe, the last one, like I said, of the season. We've got a bunch of different storylines, 12 teams with the potential chance to make it into that Spring Major, and a lot of storylines on the line. If this is your first time seeing one of these recaps, welcome to the channel. If you guys could be so kind and give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, it is very helpful to the channel and I greatly appreciate it. But let's jump into the actual recap. We are going to break these down day by day, how they went down. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday broadcast. We're going to go each in order of how they went down, as well as try to break down kind of the playoff scenarios, who was in the running, all that kind of stuff. So day one starts off with upper round 1, upper quarterfinals, lower round 1, and lower round 2, which are probably all displaying on your screen right now. Just kind of pick and choose some of the major ones that changed. One of the biggest matches in the early rounds, Solary versus Vitality. Both these teams are kind of in the running for the Spring Major, needing to have a solid performance here in order to keep them and their chances alive. Both needing some pretty solid performances. You're talking like top 3, top 4 to stay in potential of that. Solary, although if they have circumstances go in their favor, can also do it if they go out early. Other sides of it too, paying attention to teams like Team Liquid, as they need top 6 in order to qualify for the entire thing. You're also looking at opportunities for teams like Dignitas, who have to go all the way to the grand finals essentially. A lot of different circumstances. K-Corp, also another team that is trying to play for top 5, just like Endpoint. So there is a lot of teams in the running, a lot of teams in the same side of the bracket that if one does well and the other one does poorly, kind of clinches spots. So first round, everything pretty much goes as expected. Evil Geniuses, which has been kind of in a downward trend lately, has not been looking the greatest with expectations of them. Guild does have pop-off potential. They ended up losing in a pretty close series, and Guild ends up upsetting CRR. Been a fantastic addition. Excited to see what Guild does in the future, as their season is essentially over. Juicers puts up a decent fight against BDS, who has been undefeated at this point so far in the spring split. Semper also starting the same thing for Dignitas, where Dignitas drops down to lowers, trying to figure out their mentality. They got the new coach of former Queso in Nick helping out with that. Jack speaking into this regional, hey, we're in the best place mentality we've been in a really long time. So hopefully they turn around, but it's not going to start there. Also, Endpoint using Archie on the loan from Semper, looking absolutely fantastic. They end up winning their first match, and K-Corp with a win over Luminosity. Luminosity also another team that needs a pretty solid performance, as they've been in the conversation. They need to find a way to bust out a top 6, and just it's escaped them so many times because they keep running into BDS. So this time it doesn't happen. They drop down to the lower bracket. Upper quarterfinals, all the matches go as expected. Teams I consider to be the better teams do end up winning. Moist beats Solary. Liquid has a really close series against Guild. Glad to see Guild put up a fight. BDS stomps Semper. And then Endpoint beats K-Corp. K-Corp's offense is great, but it seems like Archie's showcasing yet again, hey, he is one of the top dogs in this region. So Endpoint top 6, BDS top 6, Liquid top 6, and Moist top 6. At this point, there is 3 teams that have now qualified for the World Championship, like wildcard spots, as well as in the actual upcoming event. At this point, Moist, BDS, and Liquid have all secured with top 6 the ability to go to the Spring Major. There's 2 spots remaining. It is for Endpoint, Dignitas, Solary, K-Corp is in the run at this point, and so there's a bunch of different matches that when we get these results, there's like 4 or 5 teams that are still trying to compete. We drop down to the lower bracket, round 1 and 2. Vitality beats Noobs. EG upsets Misfits again. Misfits is just a reverse sweep. I watched the series and I'm like, all right, Misfits looking good, gonna close it out, everything's great. And then EG just decided to go Super Saiyan and rise from the dead like Goku and just come in and smack them. And that was the start of EG's run, which was actually really exciting to see them showcase the form that we knew they were capable of, and it wasn't going to be a lackluster split the entire time. So EG ends up popping off. They reverse sweep Misfits. Misfit woes heart out for Cash and the crew over there. It happens yet again. It's been going on all season long. You then see Dignitas, very close game 5. We went back and watched this one. Very exciting series. Dignitas almost getting reverse swept by Juicers. They do end up holding on. A lot of 1-goal games in that one, except for game 2. And then Luminosity beats Aogiri. Glad to see Aogiri show some consistency as a top 16 team making it into the main event. Then go to lower round 2, K-Corp, a team that's been showing a lot of offensive potential. The storyline of Nolly, previously of Guild, got the boot, didn't know where he was going to find a team. I talked to him in Los Angeles when he was there for the Winter Major and talked about, hey, new team, I'm feeling good. I'm excited to go where I am, because obviously this stuff wasn't made public yet about his new team. And just excited to showcase, hey, I'm going to make the major. If you want to see that conversation, it was done on Twitter. You know, I talked to each other about it, more so privately, and a couple more details behind the scenes. And for them now with K-Corp, a little bit more prolific offense, a little bit of sustained offense, taking a little bit of the pressure off of Astral. Can they be clutch? Despite it being a very emotional team and the mentality being a thing, can they showcase that they are the potential that we always knew Astral had since he was with Dignitas and they made their run back in Season 8? They end up beating Vitality, who desperately needs a win. That ends Vitality for this split. Still potential for the wild card when it comes to the World Championship. I will do wild card breakdowns and details because it's a lot to unpack after the Spring Major, most likely. Or maybe we'll do an early first look and do it before and after. Let me know what you guys want in the comments down below. Up next, we then got EG and Semper, and another close game 5. Semper has been playing quite well with Exotic, but EG still on the warpath. They win in 5. Dignitas also on a warpath, go up by 2, almost get reverse swept by a Guild team that looks pretty solid, and they hold on. So the mentality seems to be in the right track, and we're like, okay, Dignitas, if you keep this run going like you've done in the past, maybe we see you guys in that top spot. Then we get to Luminosity and Solary. Massive round for both these teams. For Solary in particular, they need, I think it's like 2 series wins. Now that they know that BDS has lost, having a win here gives them so much potential to have a chance to break in and go further. So Solary ends up losing here, which is now very reliant on Dignitas. If Dignitas can get to what is, I think, the semifinals with BDS dropping down, Solary is basically just waiting on that to happen. So if Solary wouldn't have gone out a series early, they could have been a totally different situation, but because they do lose to Luminosity, they're looking at that top 6 match for Dignitas BDS, and if Dignitas wins, they can work their way in. So, crazy stuff across the board. We are then watching our next day. This is the start of day 2, and we do have our upper semifinals that I kind of spoiled there, and then lower rounds and lower quarterfinals. So, Moist Liquid. Moist looks like the team to beat right now, yet again. Even though BDS has been pure dominance and losing for the first time ever this split, because they do lose to Endpoint in shocking surprise. There was a lot of fun I had on my watch party for this one, twitch.tv/LAWL. We stream every day but Tuesday and Sunday. Endpoint goes up 3-0, and I have a lot of friends that are from the Netherlands area in my stream, and I started doing the whole caster curse thing. I'm like, there's no way with Endpoint playing like this that BDS is going to reverse sweep. There's no way that Endpoint lets BDS win 4 in a row. And then they start clawing it back. And every time that Endpoint would miss a shot, I would do the whole like voodoo curse hand thing and go, ooh, and joke about it. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Then Endpoint, after losing 2 in a row, says, yep, it's time for a timeout. They reset, and they end up clutching it up. So Endpoint showcasing, yes, Archie is that good. I know we lost Seiko, and we've made this monster that is BDS, but we are also extremely competitive. It's awesome to see Endpoint be able to make those adjustments. Metzenaris, by the title of this video, if you guys do not know, for the first time in 3.5 years, Metzenaris is going back to a world championship. We're talking about the transition of the old guard versus the new guard. Metzenaris is an old head. He's been around for a very long time. A lot of people, and I think Achieves even said it on broadcast, that he was one of those players that I didn't think I would ever see back on the main stage, and kind of rid him off, and is very happy to see the contrast to that. So massive congratulations to Metzenaris. He's always been a homie, always been super nice anytime I've met him and talked with him, but very happy for his chance. It's like 1,308 days or something like that. It's a little bit over 3.5 years that he is going back to a world championship now. So the thing that they still have to secure, though, is making sure that they end up qualifying for the main event. So they beating BDS, lock in their spot. Once they get guaranteed top 3, there's still potential that Dignitas can make it, and I'll talk about that here in just a sec, because that's day 3 stuff. So BDS loses to Endpoint. Endpoint makes it to the upper bracket final against Moist. where they wait to see what happens. Lower bracket quarterfinals. The day actually started off with EG versus K Corp, and K Corp, in order to make top 5 and go to the Spring Major, just has to beat EG. That's it. As long as they beat EG, they are good to go, and then they don't. 3 overtimes, and EG wins in 4. So K Corp now has to hope that EG drops out sooner than later, and then they're okay. So K Corp could have had the ability to control their own destiny. They fall short against a very solid EG team, and sucks for them. Sucks for them to sit and watch. Dignitas Luminosity. Dignitas does come out with a vengeance. 2 OTs, all 1-goal games. They 3-0 Luminosity. Still some concerns and some accuracy issues that I saw from Dignitas, but primarily looking a little bit better. They're not immediately getting deflated when they're met with adversity this time. So it does seem like the mentality stuff is helping. Credit to, obviously, their coach in Nick, who is former Queso, like I mentioned, trying to come and help. We then go to Liquid EG, and that warm-up match against K Corp seemed to spark something for EG, because they take this high-flying offense of Team Liquid and end up putting 14 goals in 2 games. It's a lot of goals. 7-2, 7-2 in games 1 and 3. They did drop game 2 1-0. So EG, if you can warm up against K Corp every day, highly recommend it. Seems to be the answer, but they put up a really good fight, but they do lose to the better team in 7. I think Team Liquid, a very solid team of young players. Excited to see what they do in London. Shoutouts to Atao, Oski, and Achronic in their efforts. So awesome to see Team Liquid, a young team, playing spoilers. They basically have to win the major to have a chance at the wild card. It's pretty nuts. We then go to BDS Dignitas, and BDS too much for Dignitas. Dignitas does put up a good fight, a couple 1-goal games in there, but overall, it is BDS going through that lower bracket, ruining the hopes and dreams of all. That continues then straight into day 3. The first match of the day is the upper bracket, to give that team in the uppers a chance to rest and be able to kind of wait and see how things go. Same thing applies towards the team that loses, having to lose in that lower bracket, wait and see how that goes. So Moist and Endpoint. Endpoint shows that they are not a fluke, that they can do this over 3 days and show really strong performances. Goes all the way to 7. 1-goal game in game 7. Unbelievable series. Moist Endpoint was absolutely fantastic. Moist just peaking, man. Endpoint played really, really well, but Moist peaking to their ability. So talk about consistency. What's better, consistency or having really high peaks? Consistency is great because it allows you to get to those moments, but you also need the pop-off potential of a really high peak in order to make sure that you can win an entire event. So Moist getting good when it matters most and showcasing that they can peak going into the big event. So Moist ends up winning in 7. There was only 1 overtime in game 1 in that, which was 8 seconds, but very good series. Probably one of my favorites of this entire weekend. Highly recommend go back and watch. Also shows a lot of credit to Endpoint and how well they're playing. Relating Wave popped the freak off this weekend. Relating Wave played so well this weekend. That drops us down to lower semifinals. Liquid BDS. BDS proves to be too much. Liquid's reign is over. Now, the important part of all this is with that BDS and Dignitas game I was talking about. If Dignitas continued to win in the lower quarterfinals and make it all the way to the lower bracket final, then they would have played Endpoint. So Dignitas needed to not only take 2nd place in the entire event to go to the major, they also needed Endpoint to take at best 3rd. So they had to lose against Moist and then also lose in the lower bracket final. But Dignitas had to be the one playing them for that to happen. But because Dignitas lost against BDS in that lower quarterfinal, that did lock in Endpoint spot. So the other thing as well is because Liquid ended up beating Evil Geniuses in the lower quarterfinal. I'm taking a couple steps back because I forgot about it. And that does secure your 5 teams for the Spring Split Major. You've got Moist, BDS, Liquid, Endpoint, and K Corp. That is who your 5 representation is, and should be pretty exciting because we did see in this regional a lot of really solid results. So the rest of the tournament ends up just becoming a formality for seeding and for fun. BDS showcasing, hey, is it possible for us to go and not lose this entire split and win every single event? While they suffered their first loss the entire split earlier in the day, would they have it happen again? They end up then going in a very close series against Endpoint. Endpoint showing that they can go toe-to-toe against the best team in the region. That's really good signs for them. The fact that they, in their run, beat K Corp, a top 5 team, BDS, the number 1 team. They go to 7 against Moist, the number 2 team. They then drop down and immediately come back and then take BDS again to 7. That's impressive. Endpoint looks really, really good with Archie and is only going to get better. So Endpoint going to 7 against BDS, 2 overtimes in that one. The timeout that was taken by BDS was the answer, just like how it was for Endpoint against them earlier, and they end up closing it out. So credit to BDS, able to hold out against Endpoint. They do win. It was actually pretty impressive because BDS was up 3-1 at one point and went all the way to 7. So tough match. Endpoint. Coin flip against BDS. It's a good place to be. Then brings us to our grand final, and it starts off with Moist. 3 overtimes in a row. Lots of 0-second goals. This series was stupid. Every time you thought the game was over, someone would score at 0 seconds, primarily Moist. Their watch party was absolutely hilarious. And there's a little bit of a teaser. Make sure you guys stick around. There's something I got to tell you about in the future updates because of the Moist broadcast. But Moist ends up going 3-0 up, 3 overtimes in a row. And then BDS 2-1, 8-3 starts to recognize that some of these rotations can be punished. And eventually it is Moist that closes it out in 6. So Moist does end up taking their own regional. They start and finish strong. BDS not able to close it out, but first place, second place, not a bad place to be. So BDS, their first 2 losses of the entire split, still going to be feeling very confident going in with Seiko into the next split, or the not even the next split, the next World Championship / major that's coming up in just a few weeks. So pretty impressive stuff. A lot of fun, exciting teams going to London. And the other thing that I mentioned, BDS and Moist during the Moist tournament or the Moist broadcast for their watch party, Moist Critical ended up talking about in-game decal goal explosions, looking at an update for October. Moist to decal October is going to potentially be the goal explosions as well. So even though Rocket Pass is showcasing it in the video that I put out yesterday or 2 days ago about how like goal explosions for esports teams are coming, it looks like that is maybe going to come in the upcoming update, and then they're going to have a second release of new teams being implemented in. I don't know how that's going to go. I'll try to keep you guys up to date on that stuff, but congratulations, Moist Esports looking good. Congrats to Mets and Ars making his way back to the World Championship, also getting to play in a major. A lot of really cool stuff. So with that said, if you guys enjoy the recaps, as always, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications, all that kind of stuff. Any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down below. Over the next few weeks, we'll be talking about what the spring split looks like, what it means. We're going to talk about wildcard situations before and after, getting you guys ready for the World Championship. APAC qualifiers and all that stuff are wrapped up. Congrats to Gaming Gladiators, by the way. Yeah, some really crazy stuff across the board between the first representation from Africa in Itachi. Like, there's some really cool storylines that are happening coming up, and we're going to try to break them all down. Also, some long-form content that you guys should be excited for, but that is going to wrap it up for today's video. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. And if you do enjoy the content, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.